Hey guys, going to do another quick video, and this one's going to be about the Wilson 1000 versus the 5000 versus the Stryker antenna versus the quarter wave whip. Really, it comes down to the quarter wave whip. People have been asking me to do this is how much better, or can you do a signal check on the difference between the quarter wave whip? We know the quarter wave whip is going to outperform. We know it's a better antenna, like it's more ideal, right? It doesn't have the loss of the base loaded, the coil, and it's longer. It's going to do better, but by how much, right? So I did the test, and here's the difference. So if you see my previous video, you'll see that the Wilson 1000, the Wilson 5000, and the Stryker SR-A10, they all were pretty much the same. My signal check, it was about S9. I did the test like about 10 miles away with a receive station. The quarter wave whip did outperform those other three by about 3 dB, about a half an S unit, which is, I guess, about right. That's about what you expect to see. So yeah, a half an S unit. You can see there a little bit plus, S9 there, and if you could see, if you're on a phone, you probably could barely see it, but I'm just reading it in case you can't see it. But the S meter there, it's about what's worth about a half an S unit worth of signal. So yeah, definitely. Now, would that be the end all be all? Okay, quarter wave whip is the best. I'm going to switch it out. I'm going to switch to a quarter wave whip. Well, not so fast, right? Because the biggest problem with the quarter wave whip is the size of it. It's just so big. It's just not practical. And that half an S unit isn't, in my opinion, really worth it, because here's the big problem is everybody I found that runs a quarter wave whip always seems to have to mount it in a less than ideal spot in the vehicle, right? They're running on a quarter panel of truck. They're running on the bumper of the truck. They're just, and therefore that 3 dB difference is lost in being too directional, or even some of the body panel blocking the antenna. So when I did my test, the antenna was mounted on the roof of the vehicle, so it's ideal, right? But I can't drive that way. I'm not going to run it that way normally. That was just for the test. So I found this Larson Antennas has a kind of a vehicle diagram here showing where you got your ideal spot where it's the permanent mount in the center of roof, where it's the reference point where there's 0 dB of loss, and then everywhere else is worse. Interesting, the mag mount difference between permanent mount was 0.2 dB, which is hardly anything at all. So now, to be fair, this is, I think, for VHF or UHF, so not HF. So is the difference more noticeable or less noticeable? Might be less, I don't know, but I know when it comes to being directional. Now, I've ran a Wilson 5000 trunk lid mount a long time in my vehicle, and I've noticed how directional it is. It's more than what they say here, where I think if you're mounted on the trunk lip, you lose 2.8 dB. I've noticed more than that. I see like about a 10 dB difference, or like 2 S units difference. When I'm driving west and I'm listening to a station that's east of me, and then I turn around, I see like a 2 S unit difference. I see a significant difference. And I used to, back in the day, I used to do, it was so directional that, I'd be able to track down people pretty easily. I'd just go in a parking lot and do a circle, and I could definitely see the S meter difference enough to, know where the direction's coming from. So here's another picture kind of from another source that shows the radiation pattern kind of, changing, but depending on where the antenna is. This one doesn't show anything in dB, but you get the point. I also got some pictures from the internet of terrible locations to put quarter wave whips or any antenna. But you see, he compromised putting the location there in the very rear corner left because he doesn't want to put, say a Wilson or something on the roof, which would still be better. The one on the right is even worse, because if that was mounted there, it's blocked by the tailgate. It's metal right inches away from the antenna. That's really bad. So I'd say you're losing signal because you're next to a body panel. So that's even worse. Here's another couple pictures I got from the internet. The one on the right there is kind of interesting. This was from Reddit, where he says fighting at high SWR. It's like, oh really? That's a surprise. Like, where the antenna is located. There's like a couple reasons why this just is a terrible location. One is the fact that, if you're running a couple 100 watts, you're what? If this is a standard cab truck, that antenna is what, 2 feet away from you, like next to you. You're getting RF like right into you, right, like 2 feet away from you, Again, the antenna is a few inches away from metal, so it's not going to work very well. The other reason is a lot of times I notice people with pickup trucks they'll struggle with RF interference on, say, the computer if they're running an amplifier, and you're so much better off putting an antenna on the roof on the cab, because with omnidirectional antennas there's a big null directly below them. There's about 30 dB null directly below pretty much all omnidirectional antennas. It's well known, like a 5/8 wave, quarter wave. Big drop directly below it. So you want that. That's ideal because now you are, and the vehicle is now not exposed. It's exposed to way less RF interference from itself, from from your signal. You're 30 dB down directly below, and you can try this on, get a field strength meter, and you can compare, and you'll see you're kind of protected. Maybe I guess if you have a sunroof, it's a little less, protected, but like it's a huge benefit by having it. Aside from the signal now being better and higher up, let's say a few more feet, when you're like 2 feet off the ground versus 6 feet, that's even a significant improvement right there too. And then the main thing is you're not so directional. So I'd say at the end of the day, based on all this, although the quarter wave whip is a better antenna, like performance wise, it's so impractical that in most cases it's not really worth running. You're still better off probably running maybe a base loaded, say like a Wilson or the Stryker. They're both good, antenna instead. It's a much more practical antenna anyways. So that's my conclusion. Let me know what you guys think. All right, take care.